Since the war broke out between Russia and Ukraine, scores of nations have put sanctions on Russia in a bid to weaken its economy and put an end to its invasion of Ukraine. In the latest attempt to hamper Moscow's bid to invade Kyiv, a plan made by the United States to end all G7 exports to Russia has been met with a roadblock as part of the negotiations ahead of a summit of the world's most advanced economies. According to a report filed by the Financial Times, the European Union and Japan have pushed back against the U.S. proposal. EU and Japanese diplomats say Washington's proposal is simply not doable. According to the document seen by the news outlet, a G7 leaders' statement is being drafted for the next month's meeting in Hiroshima. The statement includes a pledge to replace the current sector-by-sector sanction regime against Russia with a complete export ban and only a few exemptions. The full export ban would include exemptions for agriculture and medical and other products. The G7 leaders will meet in Hiroshima on May 19th for a three-day summit. The focus of the meeting will be on the effects of Russia's war against Ukraine, economic security, green investments, and the Indo-Pacific region. Meanwhile, the proposal made by the U.S. comes amidst Washington's rising frustration with the existing system riddled with loopholes, allowing Russia to continue to import Western technology. But representatives from Japan and the EU countries suggested in a preparatory meeting last week that such a move would not be feasible, in addition to the fact that the officials say replacing the regime with a full export ban plus exemptions can risk reopening the debates where some of the member states secured exemptions for their industries by threatening to veto the restrictions, and the potential weakening of already existing measures where they agreed on 10 packages of sanctions on Russia. Meanwhile, in the wake of the response made by its allies, the White House National Security Council has declined to comment on conversations within the G7 partners, but said that the U.S. would continue to look for ways to hold Russia accountable. The disagreement over the measures underscores the lack of additional options available to G7 leaders as they seek to increase the economic punishment for Vladimir Putin's regime after 14 months of war. Okay, well, for more on this, we are joined by Edward P. Joseph, Senior Fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies and Foreign Policy Analyst. He is joining us live from Washington, D.C. Welcome back to WION. Well, disagreements over the proposed plan highlight how G7 leaders are scrambling to find effective ways to penalize Vladimir Putin over his invasion of Ukraine. But here we are now with some rifts. What are your thoughts?
I don't think there's anything to be shocked about here, that there would be divisions within the G7. What the U.S. is asking for is a complete blanket ban, and that's the most comprehensive approach that you can possibly take. And the fact that Japan and others are voicing concerns about the feasibility of that, I don't think there's anything to be surprised about that. A completely comprehensive ban is the most you can do, possibly. And what I think this does is the U.S. position opens up the possibility for productive negotiations in advance of this G7 meeting that you mentioned next month. And we will see substantial increases in the sectors that the G7 leaders agree will be very strictly applied to Russia. And I would note here that we've seen progress in this area. For example, South Korea just increased by about 750 the categories of items that it is banning on export to Russia. And again, we see Russia's belligerent stance, where it responds with violent threats against this instead of countering and negotiating in the economic sphere. Please.
Thank you. Edward P. Joseph, Senior Fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies and Foreign Policy Analyst from Washington, D.C. Thank you for those comments and that insight.
You're welcome.